Now, I am far from a Triple D savant, but I took this deck list into the new Monster Type Festival and we had a lot of success, so I wanted to show it off here. It's a pretty standard Triple D list. Again, I wasn't quite sure what people were replacing with some of the new cards with the event. I didn't see as much Triple D as I thought I was going to. As soon as I saw that it was a Fiend versus Fairy, I assumed that this deck was going to be one of the better ones, but it's not really getting that many top cut finishes. I was a little bit surprised. So I decided to pick it up and try to find out why. And I couldn't figure it out because the deck felt really good. So here we are. We're going to be talking about it for any enthusiasts of the Double Ds, Triple Ds out there. This is definitely a more than viable deck that you can pick up and use. Plenty of breaking power, plenty of interruptions, lots of consistency with the amount of searchers that you got compared to other decks, which lost a lot of their consistency and versatility. Is it as good as Lab or Dark Worlds or some of these other premier decks? I don't think so. But we were able to beat a lot of Lab players with it, and, you know, it was a lot of fun, so let's go into it. We're going to be doing a deck profile at the end, card for card, so if you want to see that, by all means, it'll be at the end of the video. But first, we're going to be showing off some of the replays and discussing some of the plays for people who maybe aren't overly familiar with this deck. And, yeah, it's going to be an awful lot of fun, so if you're interested in anything like this that we do here, a deck profile, streams, tournament coverage, whatever it is, feel free to subscribe, and like the video if you enjoy watching it. Let's get into game one. Already getting into game one here. Looking at our hand, we don't exactly have a lot of hand traps in this deck. We don't play tons overall, but we do play more than enough. Looks like we're playing against Evil Eye. Now, this was a very close game. This was actually my first game playing the deck, so I was pretty new to it still at this stage. He's actually not going to special summon here on his turn one, which means the Chaos Hunter, which we normally would have summoned, is not summonable, of course. So a little bit of a blow to us. We kind of really want having, we kind of like having Chaos Hunter on the board, but it's totally fine. They're just going to go for their full Evil Eye play here. I don't know Evil Eye probably as well as I should. I'm still learning some of the new support. I haven't gotten all the cards yet, so I don't know it off by heart. But we top deck into Double D Slime. That's a hell of a top deck right there. We're going to fuse using its effect into Genghis. Normal summon Copernicus. Copernicus sending Baphomet to the graveyard. Then Swirl Slam's going to special summon out another Copernicus from the hand, triggering Genghis to bring back the Baphomet. Now, Baphomet basically allows us to modulate the levels of our monsters. We're going to go into Caesar before we go into the High King Caesar, and it's a good thing we do, because there is the Solemn Judgment. Now, the thing is, this monster gains attack points equal to the difference between our life points and our opponent's life points. So obviously, that's a bit of a problem. So what we're going to do here is we're now going to Link Summon. Instead of going into High Caesar, we're going to go into the Gilgamesh. He's then going to trigger off his Sergiel. Now, Sergiel's going to pop our Gilgamesh, which is a little annoying, but ultimately we still get to play our skills. The Eye of Selene's going to activate, going to boost his attack points up a little bit, but Gilgamesh is going to activate as well, special summoning Siegfried directly from the extra deck. Zero cost, zero restriction, no nothing. Siegfried coming out, going to negate the Selene, so he's no longer unaffected and indestructible. We're going to Pendulum Summon out the Copernicus. Going to go into Divisor here. Divisor into the battle phase, swinging at Sergiel. He's going to summon the monster out from the graveyard, but it's not going to protect them. Going to take out Sergiel. Now we're going to end our turn. Okay, so again, not the most intimidating of boards, but we do have, at the very least, an interruption in the form of a Spell Trap Negate with our Siegfried. So it's not as if we've got zero plays. It's going to equip a card on here. We're going to negate that card because that would have given him a ton of attack points and he would have been able to swing over our cards very, very easily. So we do need to slow that down, at least for now. Going to set Selene back from the graveyard, then equip it onto his Sergiel. Sergiel then going to pop the Visor. That will activate his Selene, that will boost up. Going to take out our Copernicus. And yeah, end of turn. We're going to pass it back to us now. Draw phase. We draw in the evenly match, which isn't fantastic in this situation. We are going to negate the Selene, which will prevent him from being unaffected, essentially. We're going to go Necro Slime, banishing 2, going into the High Genghis. High Genghis basically gives us a spell trap negate on our turn. We accidentally used it on our own Ragnarok, which was pretty silly, but it wouldn't have mattered too much in the long run. Again, this was my first game with the deck, but honestly, there is the Solemn Judgment, so it really wouldn't have mattered one way or the other. Now we're going to go Orphos here. Orphos popping Ragnarok and the card that's giving him the boost. We're going to swing in with our Genghis. He is going to pop the Siegfried. Siegfried doesn't do anything here. I believe when it's destroyed, I like gain 1,000 life points for every Dark Contract or something. Yeah, I do, which does nothing in this situation, but it's fine. His equip spell, of course, is negated. We're going to swing in 700 to both players. Our opponent has 75 life points left. We're going to go into the Divisor here. just because it's bigger, we really are sort of somewhat desperate at this stage. Our opponent's got Feather Duster, which kind of sucks because Orphos would have been potentially useful, but it's fine. They're going to go Medusa. Medusa grabbing back an equip spell from the graveyard, grabbing back the Gorgiano. Gorgiano activating, equipping onto the Medusa, going into the battle phase, taking out our monster, but we do have evenly matched for the end of the battle phase. Going to activate this. He's going to banish Genghis from our graveyard. That's whatever. Now, he's going to be forced to banish his whole field here because of the equip spells. So there you go, whole board gone. Now all we need to do is draw a monster, and here it is. Attack for 200 for lethal damage. Now that one was a bit of an adventure. That was a back and forth duel for sure. I was still sort of somewhat learning the deck. I was making small mistakes here and there. Our opponent obviously was incredibly oppressive and aggressive, using huge monsters, unaffected monsters, his back row to back him up. It was a tough fight for sure, especially considering we were making mistakes left, right, and center. But it is what it is. We come out on top. Let's get into game 2. Alrighty, getting into game 2 and losing the coin toss again. We were having somewhat bad luck, to be honest, and I didn't even realize initially that the Runic cards were fairies. I was a little annoyed by that, but it is what it is. Looks like we're playing against Runic Lab, of all things. Now, Chaos Hunter is summonable in this matchup, of course. We're going to summon a Chaos Hunter by discarding the Necro Slime, the Orphos that was in our hand. That's fine. You're going to grab Runic Fountain here, setting 1 and passing. Looks like they may not have had an applicable Runic spell card, which is great. They're going to go Imperm right at the beginning of the turn to negate our Chaos Hunter, so now they can go for Runic Slumbering, which allows them to start banishing cards from the top of our deck, right? That's what they were waiting on. Chaos Hunter actually hard counters Runic. So we're going to go Dark Contract here. Dark Contract grabs us the Double D Swirl Slime. We're going to normal summon the Kepler. Kepler gets searching. Going to grab the Dark Contract with the Swamp King. 1 for 1, dropping the Swamp Slime to summon out Lamia. Now we're going to link summon off into the Abyss King Gilgamesh. We're going to make sure to summon Orphos in this one over here because we want to resolve Ragnarok's effect. Ragnarok going to summon back the Orphos from the graveyard. That does lock us in the Fiends this turn. But we are not playing anything other than Fiends, so it's fine. We're going to go Swamp King Fusion Summon in the Genghis here. Now we're going to Pendulum Summon, bringing out another Orphos, and the Genghis are going to bring back the Lamia from the graveyard. Now he's going to go for Flashing Fire. Flashing Fire is going to pop our Genghis, but it's fine. We're just going to turn our other monster into a Divisor, attacking him with both our monsters to get over to the Battle Protection from Slumber, destroying and returning the Runic Huggin. So looking at this situation, it's a little bit rough for our opponent, and I'm pretty sure they don't really stick around super long because Chaos Hunter hard counters this deck. Chaos Hunter does a lot of work here. They're going to return 2, draw 2, set 1, and again, there's not a lot they can do so long as we control Chaos Hunter. I'm going to be perfectly honest here. Going to pay 2,000 life points because of our continuous cards. That's fine. Going to get to search every single turn. You get to search once per turn, which is incredible. Summon out Griffin, so now we can go into the Cursed King Siegfried. Now we're going to Pendulum Summon out the Griffin. Griffin's going to discard Necro Slime to, I believe, draw 1. Yep, Siegfried then's going to activate, negating Runic Fountain, just in case. Now we're going to go into Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh, again, not really doing much other than being a triple D. He's going to go Ace Dragon's Prison here, grabbing back the Lamia. I don't know if he doesn't know how to read or if he forgot about Chaos Hunter and why it's stopping all of his effects, but he can't banish us off of the Ace Dragon's Prison thanks to Chaos Hunter. And there you go. You can see the consistency, the board presence. The Chaos Hunter does help a lot. I had a few people in the Discord watching, and I think people sleep on Chaos Hunter. I think it's a really good card, and nobody really clicks onto that. So if you're playing a deck that values that kind of body on board, as well as the general sort of floodgate protection against banishment, Chaos Hunter's your card. Let's get into game 3. Alrighty, game 3, going second yet again. Can't catch a brick, cannot win a coin toss. Playing against Evil Eye once more. We didn't have any good lab decks. Again, most of the Labyrinth players we went against, we either instantly lost to or instantly won against. A lot of the times we were winning, where they would just like, we played a couple of cards and then they would just scoop because they didn't want to play through it. So it is what it is. They're going to go through standard Watcher plays here, or sorry, Evil Eye plays, I should say. Going to draw 1. Hand isn't the greatest. We are going to make an effort to play through this, though. We're going to go evenly matched. They're going to go Retribution to negate the evenly matched. That's going to protect their board from being banished. We do have a few combo pieces in hand, but he does have the ability to play through at least a few. So we're going to have to see what their options are. We're going to start with 1 for 1, dropping Necro Slime to summon out the Kepler from deck. Kepler then on summons, going to grab us a Dark Contract. Dark Contract with the gate is going to activate, searching our deck for another card. They're going to go Evil Eye Defeat, and I'm not entirely sure if this worked the way they thought it was going to, but it bounces our monster back. We still get the search though, so I don't know really what the objective of that was. Maybe they just wanted Surziel to be bigger. I'm not sure. We're going to go the Swirl Slime into Genghis. Genghis, when summoned, is going to just get popped right away by Surziel. I don't know why, considering it isn't really a threat at 2,000 attack points. Maybe he just really didn't want us to go into the Divisor King. Why you would wait, I don't know, but it's fine, I guess. They're going to go into the Link monster here then, off of the level 3 that's summoned back. Evil Eye is unleashed, banishing itself, equipping on the Evil Eye Selene to Zurziel, ruler of the Evil Eyed. We're going to go Contract here. We knew that if we activated Contract, it was going to get popped right away. That's entirely our plan. We wanted him to use that pop now, so we could now use Necro Slime in the graveyard without being interrupted, without having our monster destroyed. So we're going to go into the High King Genghis, normal summoning Orphos. Genghis going to bring back the Kepler from the graveyard. Now we're going to link summon into Gilgamesh. We're just hoping we can make something work here. We're going to play 2 skills, go for Orphos, popping 2 cards. Now we're going to use the Dark Contract, adding Kepler back to our hand. We're going to Pendulum Summon out an Orphos here, but unfortunately we just do not have the gas to take out the Zurziel at that 3100, which seems silly, right? It seems silly that that's what we're struggling with, but unfortunately we just are. We didn't have the ability to go over this because he had so many interruptions. If our spell card had resolved, we would have been able to summon a big enough monster to get over it, but unfortunately it just didn't. Harpy's Feather Duster hurts a lot. They're completely shutting down a lot of our follow-up, and I'm pretty sure we don't stick around for very long here because the game is just in an unwinnable game state at this stage. We simply lack the facilities and gas to get over this. 43 to the face over our Genghis. That card is huge, attacking twice, taking out the Gilgamesh, which allows us to summon Siegfried from the extra deck at the very least, protecting us for one more turn. Maybe we can draw into some sort of miracle, but we draw into infinite impermanence. Zurziel is going to activate. It's not going to do anything, but it still activates. We're going to go Kepler. Kepler gets Search, and we're going to activate the Dark Contract here. That's going to get hit with Retribution, so he still had the counter trap face down, which is insane, right? On top of having the pop, he also has the counter trap. He also has the field spell. He's got the Selene, making his monster huge and unaffected. We're going to go Siegfried here on the Selene. We might as well. It is getting popped. But yeah, I'm pretty sure we don't stick around past this point. Yep, just a bunch of cards resolving for no reason. Selene paying 500, boosting up by another 500. Siegfried doing nothing. Setting a card, we end our turn. Into our opponent's turn here. We were thinking about just sort of ending it ourselves. Zurziel here is going to activate. We're going to activate Infinite Permanence just as an act of defiance, right? We know where this is going. There's nothing we can do about it. And I believe they go to continue calm. Oh, no, they don't. They just go straight for the game. There you go. Again, he won. Plain and simple. I think we put up a very valiant fight. I think that was definitely a good game. We played through a solid handful of interruptions there, and we still would have had some sort of gas, but unfortunately our opponent just had too much for us to get past, which, you know, it's fair enough. It was still a good game overall, so I did want to show it off. But yeah, there you go. Evil Eye. Evil Eye kind of nice. Evil Eye is kind of nice. We might have to have a look at that some point soon if it wasn't so damn expensive. Man! Into the deck profile. Alright, now let's quickly talk about the Fiend restriction. Basically, that means that your options for flex spots are relatively limited. So we're going to talk about the flex spots first of all, just so we can get it done and out of the way. First things first, Chaos Hunter. Chaos Hunter 100% flex spot card. You do not have to play this. It does not add over, like, it doesn't really have any inherent synergy with the deck. Like, it being a Fiend isn't even really all that useful. But it is a fantastic card. It is board presence, 2500 beater. In certain situations that can be very impactful, as well as just having that banishment protection. There's a lot of cards that banishes cost or banishes effect. It shuts down the Big Welcome Labyrinth. It stops some of the Dark World cards like Allure of Darkness and things like that. It stops Runic is another big one. It stops just generic trap cards like Ice Dragon's Prison. There's a whole lot of things that it stops. And in a format where you have access to less options, I didn't really fancy playing a bunch of pointless double D monsters, whereas I could actually bolster my deck in a more generic sense by playing Chaos Hunter. So that's just my take on her. Entirely optional. Play her if you want. We've got Triple Tactics, generic good card. Cult Buy, go ahead. Evenly matched, absolutely. Infinite Permanence, there you go. And there's 12 spots, right? 12 spots, do whatever you want. And those 12 spots are yours. Go nuts. I think even Baphomet kind of falls into a flex spot-ish zone, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So, starting from the start, what does the deck actually want to do? Well, it wants to fusion summon and exceed summon into some of its big bosses. What are those bosses? You have the Visor King, Deus Machinix. You have your Super Doom King, Purple Armageddon, which you will rarely use, but it's still pretty awesome. And primarily, you have your Triple D Wave King, High Caesar. Now, unfortunately, we weren't able to summon him in a decent game in this video, but this is definitely your primary boss monster, and that's why we're playing Baphomet. So, what exactly then are we doing to bring all of this out? Well, that's where the main deck comes in. Gonna start from the start, we got Necro Slime, a level 1 fiend. This card can banish itself from the graveyard alongside other fusion materials to fusion summon a Triple D fusion monster directly from the extra deck. So that is pretty solid. Now remember, it has to include this card, which means the only monster it can actually summon is either is one of the 2 Genghis cards. It cannot be used to summon this guy. That is worth noting. You've got Lamia. Lamia being a level 1 tuner is, you would think, one of your primary ways of going into Siegfried, but it really isn't, if I'm being honest with you. Its primary utility is that, yes, it is a tuner, but primarily that it's a level 1, which makes it a summonable target off of 1/1, as well as being able to bring itself back from the graveyard using its effect. If it's in your hand or graveyard, send a Double D or Dark Contract from your hand or field to the graveyard to special summon this card. Basically, it just makes a free link fodder for your Gilgamesh, which is its primary use, but it being a tuner is somewhat useful. Swirl Slime. Swirl Slime is a phenomenal card. Swirl Slime basically allows you to fusion summon in hand, including this card. So you reveal it in hand, fuse this with something else, summon out a Triple D fusion monster. That's normally how a lot of your plays get started. It can also banish itself from the graveyard to special summon a Double D from hand, which is really good. Again, the card is just very, very versatile. We've got Baphomet. Baphomet is a totally optional card, but I'm playing him because of the fact that Genghis is limited to 1. Now, why is that relevant? Well, with Genghis limited to 1, normally what you would do in Triple D decks is you would play 2 Genghis, and you would loop one into the other, and then you would use both as materials for your Wave High King Caesar, which requires 2 level 6 fiends. Now, of course, that's not possible, so what are we doing instead? We're going to bring Baphomet into play, which can use its effect to target a Double D you control and change its level to anything between 1 and 8. Which means you have the ability now to put an additional level 6 monster onto your field with relative ease. Generally speaking, you'll want to send this card to the graveyard, either from your hand using something like your Swirl Slime, or from your deck using your Copernicus, which we'll get to in a minute. You want to send it to the graveyard, and you want to revive it off of your Genghis's effect. Once it's on the field, changes something else's level, bye-bye. There you go, instant rank 6. It also facilitates things like your Caesar being able to go into your rank 4, being a level 4 itself, just changes another card in the field to level 4, and bang, there you go, easy job. Same for Siegfried, it makes summoning Siegfried really easily alongside your Lamia. So it's just a very versatile card in terms of accessing your extra deck, which is its primary usage. It is optional, it's not great to have it in hand. It's not terrible because you can fuse it away off of the likes of Swirl Slime, or discard it off of Griffin or off of Lamia. Again, it's not the end of the world if you open up with it, but it's definitely something you would rather not see in your hand. So it's totally up to you, but I think it definitely generates a lot of value. So we got Kepler. Kepler, very simple. On summon, you will search your deck for a Dark Contract. There's a bunch of other text on this. It doesn't matter. Cerberus. This is another optional add. It's another level modulation card. While it's in the Pendulum Zone, it's a skill 6, which is kind of neat. While it's in the Pendulum Zone, you can target a Double D, change its level to 4, and boost its attack and defense a little bit, which is nice. It's not huge, but it does come up sometimes with some of your lower level monsters, so it is definitely useful to an extent. But if you wanted to replace like Baphomet or Cerberus with extra cards, you absolutely could. Cerberus is not core to the strategy. Got Copernicus. Copernicus on summon, Foolish Burial, send a Double D or Dark Contract from deck to grave. Pretty awesome starter. Alongside your Kepler, it's probably your best or second best normal summon. Play 2 copies of Orphos. Number 1 is a level 4 tuner that is primarily going to be useful for your Exceed or Synchro plays, of course. It's also one of the primary Pendulum cards you're going to be playing directly from the deck off of your Gilgamesh, thanks to its skill 3 and its ability to pop back row. So as a Pendulum card, once per turn you're going to target a spell or trap on the field, as well as one of your double Ds or dark contracts. Pop both. Pretty useful. Especially in an event filled with Labyrinth, where you really want to be hitting back row as hard as you can. Orphos helps with that. We're playing 2 copies because we do definitely want to play one from deck off of our Gilgamesh, meaning we definitely don't want to open our only copy and then not be able to play it, right? It's not end of the world because you still have the likes of Copernicus that you can play, or Griffin that you can play as a low skill, so it's not as if it completely kills you, so you can play it at 1, but I think 2 is fine. Griffin. This card is pretty interesting. It's definitely very strong, but it's also not as strong as you think it is, which is it's a bit weird, right? So if you control a double D, you can special summon this card from your hand in defense. Automatically, good effect, right? It's a level 4. A lot of your other ones are level 4. Easy rank 4 or level 8 synchro. Job done. If it's Pendulum summoned, you can discard a double D or dark contract to draw a card. Okay. If it's special summoned from the graveyard, you can target a double D card from your deck and add it to your hand. So it has a bunch of different effects depending on... I don't know why I said that really weird. Might be. It has a bunch of different effects depending on where you summon it from. If you can special summon it from hand, easy job. You can Pendulum summon it, which will let you discard 1, draw 1. Then you can, if you summon it from the graveyard, you can search your deck for a card. Pretty neat. As a Pendulum card, it can target a fiend and monster you control, against 500 attack for each dark contract, spell, or trap with different names, and then you destroy this card. So pretty straightforward stuff. Usually if you do end up playing this in the Pendulum Zone, it's only, like, the attack boost is neat, but it's primarily just to put itself into the extra deck to then be Pendulum summoned by your actual combo. But yeah, there you go. There's the Griffin. It's a pretty versatile card, which is why we play it at 3. It's definitely very, very good. Don't get me wrong. Its presence also makes something like Cerberus a little bit better. It also makes Berthament a little bit better. So I would say Griffin at 3 is an easy decision to make. Then we've got our first and only main deck Triple D monster. We're playing Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok. Now this guy you're going to use almost exclusively as a Pendulum card from the deck. So long as it's in the Pendulum Zone, if you were to special summon a double D to your field, you can target another double D in the grave, and you special summon it out to the field, then you take 1000 damage, and any damage your opponent would take for the rest of that turn is now halved. So it's got that sort of Pot of Prosperity restriction on it. But ultimately, just that extra graveyard recursion helps a lot, especially in the context of having the likes of Berthament ready to go to supplement your rank 6 access. So this guy, absolutely, I would definitely recommend running at least 2 copies of this, because like I said, unlike with the low skill, where Orphos' effect is kinda neat, this guy is useful not only for his skill, which is above level 4, which is the only thing you care about, right? The difference between 5 and 6 and 10, blah blah blah, doesn't matter. The only thing you care about is that it's bigger than 4. So this is a high skill here. Apart from just its skill, its actual effect is amazing. So you definitely want to be playing this from the deck off your Gilgamesh, which means you really can't afford to be opening up your only copy. You have to play 2 at least. We got 1 for 1. 1 for 1 idea is you basically summon Kepler from deck, get searching. You can also summon Necroslam or Lamia in a pinch if you need those cards or you've already used your Kepler. But 1 for 1 basically just gets you instant access to any of these level 1 cards. The Field Spell. The Field Spell is a card I feel like I'm constantly underutilizing, but then whenever I play it, it's really not that impressive, right? So, if your opponent special summons a monster with the same card type as a Triple D monster you control, be it Fusion, Synchro, Exceed, or Link, so any of the extra deck summoning mechanics, if you already control a Triple D monster of that type of card, you can inflict 1000 damage to your opponent, and then your opponent cannot special summons with that monsters with that same card type for the rest of the turn. So if they link summon while you have a Gilgamesh, well, that's their one and only link summon for that turn. They cannot do it for the rest of the turn. If this card's sent to the graveyard, you can add a double D monster from your graveyard or from your extra deck to your hand. Pretty neat, nice recycling effect. The Floodgate is overrated in my opinion. Against certain combo decks it can be very useful, but in the confines of this event, it's not particularly relevant, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. but its search effect, or sorry, its recursion effect is kind of neat, right? So I still play one of it. I think the card is definitely worth at least considering or playing. But if you didn't want to play it, I wouldn't blame you. I would cut it. Triple copies of Dark Contract with the Gate. Once per turn, search your deck for a double D monster. Pretty awesome. Dark Contract with the Swamp King. Once per turn, fusion summon a Fiend fusion monster by banishing materials from your hand or field or graveyard. Pretty awesome card. And Triple D Head Hunt. Target a monster your opponent controls. Take control of it until the end phase of the next turn, but its effects are negated. It cannot declare attack, and if it was an extra deck monster, you can change it to being a Triple D monster. Now, the reason that last part is relevant is Machinics, and we'll get to that. So there's your main deck. Again, there are still certain cards in here which are still somewhat optional. I think you can cut Cerberus. He didn't really come up at all. You could also cut Orphos to 1. I think 1 Orphos is fine, although the second one did come up on occasion. You could cut the field spell. I think the field spell is very good. Lamia doesn't do a ton, but I like the recursion. So I think you could play it closer to something like this and still get away with it, with having a couple of extra flex spots to play around with. But I wouldn't cut too many double D cards, because you don't want your engine to become diluted, right? You still need to draw some of them. A couple of other neat inclusions could be Night Howl or Ghost are both okay cards. I think in a simplified game state, Howl is really strong, but you need to get to that simplified game state first. If you can play Pendragon, isn't terrible. I believe this card pops back row, right? Once per turn, discard a card, but boost, and then destroy a spell or trap. There you go. You've got a bunch of your triple Ds as well in the main deck, so there's definitely viable options if you want to up your number of double D monsters without playing some of these bad ones. Vice Typhon is a really good one as well. So go nuts, do a bit of reading, do a bit of research, and let me know if you find any really powerful options that I potentially overlooked. Let's get into the extra deck. We have our 2 Fusion Genghis monsters. So basically they both have a similar-esque effect. Whenever you summon another double D monster to the field, so long as you control this, you get to special summon a double D from the graveyard. Pretty straightforward stuff. One's level 6, one's level 8. This guy also has a spell or trap negate during your turn only, not during your opponent's turn, so it's kind of meh. But it does help protect you from the likes of Labyrinth sometimes, so it is worth noting. They're both just extenders. You've got your Purple Armageddon. So this card is primarily just for offense, just raw offense, going for game. As a fusion monster, you target an attack position monster your opponent controls, destroy it, and inflict damage to your opponent equal to half of its original attack. Before damage calculation, if it battles an opponent's monster, if an opponent's monster battles, not this card, if an opponent's monster battles, you can make its attack become equal to its original attack until the end of the damage step. If it's destroyed, put it in the pendulum zone. Got a skill 1, which is neat. Once per turn before damage calculation, if a triple D fusion monster battles an opponent's monster, they lose 1,000 attack. It's just raw offense. Basically, to summarize its usage, you summon it, pop a card, do some damage, swing for big number, easy game. That's the idea. It's a lot of text for not very much. We've got Siegfried, who is a lot of text for not very much. So once per turn, target a face-up spell or trap card. Its effects are negated until the next standby phase. Very specific, but neat card. Very easily summoned. Level 8 synchro. Pretty great. We got 2 copies of Wave King Caesar. So the deck has very easy access to rank 4s. I thought I would be using this guy more than I actually used him. I didn't use him as much as I thought I was going to. I said the same thing in 2 different ways. So basically, you can detach a material, and at the end of the... Is it the end of the turn or battle phase? At the end of the battle phase of this turn, you can resummon monsters from your graveyard up to the number of monsters that were destroyed this turn, essentially. But for the next standby phase, you take 1,000 damage for each. So it's just soul drain, soul charge, sorry, which is kind of neat. If the card is sent from the field to the graveyard, add a Dark Contract card from your deck to your hand. That's its main usage, honestly, is to be sent to the graveyard to search your deck for a card. So yeah, that's pretty much it. He can also instantly rank himself up into Marksman King Tell. This card has a bunch of text on it, but he doesn't really do anything. You really realistically just use these cards to rank up in the Gilgamesh, right? This card's pretty underwhelming. Once per turn, during either player's turn, if you took any damage this turn, you can detach a material, target a face-up monster in the field that loses attack and defense for 1,000 and inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. If it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can send a double D or Dark Contract from your deck to the grave. So, yeah, kind of underwhelming. We got Dugaris. We all know what Dugaris does. Either draw 2, discard 1, special summon a monster from the grave, or double the attack of a monster you control, but skip the relative phase during your next turn. You know? You're realistically only going to use this for the draw phase effect, or on occasion the battle phase, right? But we very seldomly summon this card, so I wouldn't worry too much about Dugaris. Now this guy is the actual boss of the deck, and he's a little bit harder to summon in this particular version because you got less access to level 6s, but this card is definitely worth it. So if a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated that includes special summoning a monster, detach a material, negate the activation, destroy the card, then make another double D monster and this card gain 1800 attack points. So they get absolutely huge, negate and destroy, and it's not once per turn. You just detach a material, which means you can use this twice on one turn, which is absolutely incredible. If it's sent from the field to the grave, add a dark contract from your deck to your hand, similar to the original Caesar's effect. Basically, it's just 2 negates baked into one. This card's incredible, especially in a meta filled with Labyrinth. Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is not a card you're going to use very often. You don't summon level 8s very much. Realistically, you're only going to do it off of like an Oblivion King and a Baphomet maybe, or a Siegfried or a Genghis and a Baphomet, but you'll not summon this card very often. On the turn it succeeds summoned, all other cards and their effects cannot be activated, and other cards and effects are negated for that turn. Once per turn, quick effect, detach a material, destroy all spells and traps on the field, or you can detach a material, target a dark contract, spell trap in your graveyard, and add it and set it back to the field. So yeah, pretty awesome. Then we've got Machinix. This guy serves as the most consistent boss monster of the deck, and this has a lot of words on it. But let me just simplify it down for you. Basically, once per chain, if your opponent activates an effect, a monster effect, you can either pop a dark contract in your field or detach 2 materials from this guy to steal that opponent's monster and equip it onto this guy as material. Now, that's pretty damn awesome, but he's also stupendously easy to summon because you don't actually need to worry about exceed summoning him. You can just summon this guy using any triple D monster you control as material. So that means any of your extra deck monsters at all. You can use Ragnarok if you have it on the field. You can even use an opponent's extra deck monster that you stole off of Headhunt. Anything that has triple D in its name, you can just instantly rank it up into this guy, which makes him very easy to access. You play 2 or 3 copies of this guy abso-freaking-lutely. It's got that baked in interruptions, and it's once per chain. The normal situation for this card is, unless you use an Exceed monster for it, it's going to have 1 material. So normally for its first activation, you're going to have to pop a dark contract to steal the opponent's monster. Well, now you've got 2 materials, which means the next time they activate a monster effect, you can just detach the 2 that you've got and steal their monster again. You get 2 yoinks. And that's only if you don't use an Exceed monster for it, right? If you use like the likes of a Caesar, if you go Caesar into Tell, into Divisor, you can use this card potentially 3 or 4 times on the one turn. Steal 3 or 4 of your opponent's monsters on one turn. That is incredible. So be careful of how you use this guy. He can be very powerful, but he's also somewhat vulnerable. Don't put all of your faith in this guy. If he's 1 imperm from being useless, right? Just remember that. He's 1 evenly matched from being useless. Like, it's just be careful. And lastly, we have the Freya, the link to Triple D Abyss King Gilgamesh. This card is absolutely insane. Basically, on summon, you can take any 2 double D Pendulum monsters and place them face up into the Pendulum zones. So, like, that is just incredible. Instant +2, which is insane. He's typically going to grab you your Ragnarok and an Orphos. Orphos, basically, you just want your Pendulum scale to contain level 4. It doesn't really matter about anything else. So anything containing level 4, but you definitely want this guy as your high scale. This guy is incredible if you just activate him straight from the deck. And Orphos again allows you to pop back row. He's a level 4, which means that if you bring him back, he can be useful, blah blah blah. Another viable option as a low scale, of course, is the likes of Copernicus, but primarily it's going to be Orphos and Ragnarok. He has another effect where if this guy is destroyed by your opponent's attacking monster or by an opponent's card effect, you get to special summon any triple D monster from your deck or extra deck, which is insane. There's no restrictions, no like gets destroyed at the end phase, no it can't activate its effect. No, you can just special summon Siegfried to the field. You can special summon your Purple Armageddon. You can summon out Caesar if you want to get Surging during the end phase. Like it's insane. you just get to special summon something whenever this guy goes. Although normally what you're going to do is go through your plays, summon Gilgamesh, activate your skills, and then you're going to turn your Gilgamesh into your Deus Machinix. But yeah, there's the deck list. Again, I'm not an expert when it comes to Triple Ds. I'm fully expecting to be corrected by people in the comments, throwing card suggestions and everything at me. Bottom line is, if you got this far into the video, Triple D is an incredibly versatile deck. There is a million and one ways of playing it. Don't let someone pressure you into playing it any given way, and certainly don't take my advice as gospel. Take it, try it out, try your best. If you learn anything cool, let me know, because I'm always up for learning something new. And that'll wrap us up. If you got this far, like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.